What have I got to say? I don't know, but I got a lot of it to say. I don't know what I'm going to say, but I got a lot to say. Where am I? All right, let's talk Genesis chapter 41. We're halfway through. We are back in Egypt with Joseph, who has been there a while, has seen the bottom. He went from that pit in Canaan when he, almost got ambushed because he goes out to find his brothers. And when he finds his brothers on a mission from his father, they promptly throw him in a pit. He's only alive, interestingly, because of Reuben. The rest of them wanted to kill him. Tells you something about that family. But Reuben talked him out of it and was planning on going back to the pit to pull him out of there. I don't know what he was going to tell everybody. Hey, here's Joseph again. I tricked my brothers, you know. But Joseph got sold into slavery in Egypt, courtesy of their distant cousins, the Ishmaelites. And then he ran afoul of his master because of the master's wife and landed himself in another pit. That word is used too, where he spent 2 years. But in the meantime, he had been visited by two other inmates who had dreams, and he interpreted those dreams. And one of them was a positive dream, and the guy who was the recipient of the positive interpretation didn't return the favor and tell Pharaoh about Joseph. So Joseph's going to sit in that prison for 2 years, waiting for his time. He doesn't know it that way. He doesn't think of it that way. He doesn't know it, but that's what's going to happen. And now it's time, because after 2 years, Pharaoh has a dream. So dream, dream, dream. Each time it's two dreams. First time it was the brothers and then his father. Second time it was the butler and the baker in the prison. This time it's Pharaoh, who's going to have two dreams. And he's going to suddenly get remembered by the chief baker. I'm not sure why he would tell on himself and take the chance, but he did. Oops, I forgot to mention this guy that told me what was going to happen. But Pharaoh was favorably impressed and probably desperate. These guys took their dreams really serious. And he obviously has a sense of doom about it. It involves the Nile, and there's, emaciated cows and ears of corn and so forth, with the Nile mentioned there in verse 1. So all of this looks bad for the future to these people, because that's how they understood dreams. And they're right this time. And so they call Joseph in, and he marches right up to Pharaoh and says, tell me your dream. God will interpret it for you. I'm just a mouthpiece. So we get this twice told story of the dream. The narrator tells it one time and to us in the reading, and then Pharaoh tells it to Joseph. And then immediately, with no delay whatsoever, no consultation with God, no, let me pray about it, Joseph just starts talking and kind of pulls a Daniel. Just tell me your dream and I'll interpret it, because God will interpret it for you. Hadn't heard it yet. It's got some parallel there with Daniel, but where it departs a little bit is in the case of Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar's tired of these magicians. So when they come in to interpret his dream, they say, hey, what's your dream? And he says, no, I'm sick of you guys. You tell me the dream. And if you can't tell me the dream, I'm going to kill you. So the word gets around, and that's when Daniel comes in. I'm working from memory here, and saves the day. Says, I'll interpret your dream on behalf of the magicians, of whom I am. From your perspective, Nebuchadnezzar, I'm one of them. I'm in the club. I'll tell you the dream, and then I'll tell you the interpretation, which is exactly what happens. So here, Pharaoh tells the dream, and we have this interpretation, which amounts to there's going to be 7 years of famine, such as has never been seen. 7 years of plenty, where the storehouses are going to be overflowing. And then there's going to be 7 years of famine, which will deplete the storehouses. And so that's what he tells Pharaoh is the meaning of the dreams. The fact that there's two of them indicates that it's certain and it's very quick. You better move now. Then he takes the extra step. He's not asked about his advice. He's just asked for the interpretation, but he keeps talking. He just takes the initiative and gives Pharaoh the master. Pharaoh's waiting on pins and needles for the interpretation and know what's going to happen. He gets the interpretation, and then the guy who's doing the prisoner who's interpreting doesn't stop talking. And he goes on to lay out the plan that Pharaoh is supposed to implement. And from Pharaoh's perspective, he thinks, well, I've got this guy who's speaking on behalf of this God, and it sure sounds right. So maybe he's speaking on behalf of God about the plan too. So he just lets him talk. And Joseph just gives him the plan. Verse 33. Let Pharaoh look for a man discerning and wise. Of course, he's standing right in front of him. Set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh take action to appoint overseers in charge of the land. It's like some kind of 5-point plan that he's already got. So he walked in not even knowing the dreams. And he starts talking, and before he finishes talking, he's not only interpreted the dreams, he's given the master plan that Pharaoh's supposed to follow to save Egypt.
And that's from God too.
Obviously. Yeah, all of it's from God. Let him exact a fifth of the produce of the land of Egypt in the 7 years of abundance, and let them gather all the food of these good years that are coming, store up the grain for food in the cities under Pharaoh's authority, and let them guard it. Let the food become as a reserve for the land for the 7 years of famine, which will occur in the land of Egypt, so that the land will not perish during the famine. So he finishes talking. Pharaoh, probably sitting there stunned, looks around at his ministers, his cabinet members. They got this slave. He's just a slave who just ran in front of him from prison. And they're looking at this slave in front of them, and this is the council of Egypt, right? It's the king and whoever he has in front of him. And they're all looking around after he finishes talking, and they're probably, shrugging and going, oh yeah, thumbs up. I mean, we got nothing. So, what he said. So that's where we are now. That's verse 38. And boy, do things happen quickly. Like I said last week, this thing starts with Joseph in prison for 2 years. He's languishing in prison. Now he's standing before Pharaoh after, however many verses that, after 14 verses, he now stands in front of Pharaoh. Then after 37 verses, he's not only interpreted the dream, but given a plan for the salvation of Egypt. So now we're into 38, where things are going to happen fast for Joseph. So let's go there. 38 through, I don't know, where are we going to? 49. Or till I decide to stop and just start talking again. Then Pharaoh said to his servants, wow. Let me shorten that down in verse 38, Pharaoh's response. Wow. Can we find a man like this in whom is a divine spirit? So Pharaoh said, and they all said, no. What's wrong with this one? So Pharaoh says to Joseph, since God has informed you, he's using Elohim, that sort of neutral, not the covenant name for God, which I said last week is gone now from the text of Genesis. Nobody's going to use it anymore. We're in Egypt. And in Egypt, God is God. He's not Yahweh. And so we've made that transition. Since God has informed you of all of this, there is no one so discerning and wise as you are. Your interpretation sounds right. In fact, shockingly, the instinct is right. What's the word for that? It hits all the right buttons. His interpretation. Cannot argue with it. So why not go with the proposal too? You shall be, okay, you do it, says Pharaoh to this slave. I don't care where I get my guys when it comes to the salvation of Egypt. I don't care if you are a slave. We'll just make you not a slave anymore. Now that's not going to last, because after this Pharaoh dies and another Pharaoh too dies, that slave status is going to resurrect itself, not just for him, but for the rest of the clan, because they're going to end up in Egypt and they're just going to be slaves again. But for the moment, you do it. You shall be over my house, and according to your command, all my. Now he moves quick. He makes a snap decision. He don't want any argument from anybody. I want this guy to do anything he wants, and I don't want anybody to give him any trouble. So he gives him that kind of power and place. You shall be over my house, and according to your command, all my people shall do homage. So now we have the slave, not just like an advisor. He's going to stand in the place of Pharaoh himself. And the brothers are sitting off to the side in Canaan. So you can see that little date with destiny coming as well. Only in the throne will I be greater than you. So he's going to be kind of this all-powerful governor in Egypt. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. And then Pharaoh took off his signet ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand and clothed him in garments of fine linen and put the gold necklace around his neck. It's practically appointing him as a prince in his place. This man will act on my behalf in all matters relating to the kingdom in Egypt, which there's not even a real kingdom yet. I don't know if we'll have time to talk about that. Then Pharaoh, let's see. He had him ride in his second chariot to reinforce the authority, and they proclaimed before him, bow the knee. So once again, you've got those dreams that the brothers and his father had. And so you can just see it all coming together now really, really fast. And he set him over all the land of Egypt. Moreover, Pharaoh said to Joseph, though I am Pharaoh, king, yet without your permission, no one shall raise his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh named Joseph. That sounds good to me. That new name right there. And this is what you do. This this way of ratifying agreements or something like that. Not that Joseph has any say in the matter. And he gave him Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On. Interesting side bit. As his wife. Joseph went forth over the land of Egypt. So what's going on with Joseph, right? He's, this narrator bothers to put in this detail that he's going to be married to the daughter of an idolatrous priest. It's not like this guy is a priest, like Melchizedek. He's not. He's a pagan priest. So he marries the daughter of a pagan priest.
The pagan priest. I'm pretty sure Amon is tripling of like the sun god thing, right?
I don't know.
Just a big deal.
Priest of On. Should I look this up?
It's just gonna, maybe it should show like Amon, Amon something. Can't remember.
That's just the story. It's a town. It's a town, according to Wikipedia. But according to these images, look at this. What the heck? What? Why am I looking at these images?
Very AI.
I don't think we know.
Oh, there we go.
Which one?
Priest of Ra.
Potiphera was a priest of Ra, the sun god, who was based in On.
Which is the
sun, right there, Helio. The city of the sun, or city of sun. Polis is Greek for city. And then Helio is
the daughter of the big guy, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Interesting. I don't know if it's a great privilege, but
Pharaoh thought so.
Pharaoh certainly thought so. And it's not like Joseph could take half the deal.
Yeah.
You don't have to get nervous about all these open tabs. That's what I'm going to talk about today. Instead of having notes. We'll see.
So Zaphnath-Paneah might mean a man to whom hidden things are revealed.
Yeah, the trouble with that is you don't know if that's just one of those. Well, the story is about a man to whom hidden things are revealed, so we'll.
Somebody put that meaning.
All right. Let's see what we got. I don't like my notes.
Well, there's also an example of Daniel and Mordecai and Esther. In the fact that they became second in command of all the land. Too, so.
Yeah, they didn't, if they thought they could benefit from somebody, they pull you out of slavery in a second to make that happen. You know, it's not like, yeah, there's a caste system, like in the Roman Empire, there's a caste system, but a lot of those slaves, they did real well if they had the right, you know, toolkit to them, so they would do real well. We've already talked about two of them. One is the Tribune in the Antonia fortress, who saved Paul from the Jews by sending him to Samaria. And then the guy he sent him to, Festus, was governor of Judea, and he was a former slave as well. And Paul's family would have been former slaves. We don't know how far into the past, but that's all anachronistic because that's 2,000 years later. But, you know, here you see it. I don't care if you were a slave. We'll just change that for the moment. He was, let's see, he was placed over, I wrote down notes that said this is the third time Joseph has been placed over a house. Yeah, that's right, 3 times. Potiphar placed him over his house. Then he goes to the jail. The jailer places him over the prison. The jailer places him over the prison, and now Pharaoh places him over all of Egypt. So it's all foreshadowing what's coming.
Pharaoh came out pretty good on this deal too, just the fact that he became a rich man. He eventually had all the land of Egypt, and he had all the controlled all the people, even his own people were kind of slaves in a way, because they sold themselves to get grain and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, when they come into Egypt, they're going to come in as slaves.
I'm talking about Egyptian people.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
That they sold themselves to get the
Yep.
grain, because they ran out of money, ran out of land, ran out of livestock. The only thing they had left at the end was themselves, so.
I have to look into that a little bit. Like I said, I was watching these YouTube videos, and it's on YouTube, so it must be true, right? But they were talking about at some point in this period, Egypt transitioned from being a tribal kind of warlord area, like during the Judges for Israel, you know, up until David, or up until, yeah, basically David, they were a confederation of tribal elders, of tribes, and then you had elders over each tribe. And so Egypt, earlier than that, they had something like that, and then at some point that changed, and the power centralized in the king, exactly like it did. This is me reading between the lines, exactly like it did for David. When and how that happened is the big question, but you're staring this story in the face. This is really interesting. I have no strong opinion about it, or really any opinion. I just relate it, but I have no opinion about it. So now the Egyptian wife is going to disappear. He's going to have 2 kids. We'll get to them in a second. We don't have any idea what this name means, I don't think. Do we? Really? I don't, maybe we do. Maybe we know enough about it that it's not just reverse engineering the situation, you know, and putting that meaning into the name.
It's just like Babylon, basically, all the Jewish kids, boys, Daniel became Belteshazzar.
Yeah, they all got names.
They all were given the Babylon name.
Yeah.
But it's the same way in Egypt, it's given an Egyptian name.
It's interesting. He's Egyptian. So, you know, he had that statement earlier, God has caused me to forget all my troubles and my family. So from his perspective, he's an Egyptian. And now you see it kind of complete. He becomes governor of Egypt. He gets a new name. He's married to the daughter of the priest of On or Ra or whatever. So it's kind of like this transformation is complete. So you're going, wow. And now the clan is coming. They're going to come in the next chapter. It's the journey is going to start in the next chapter for the events. And so, you know, well, is that it then? Are they done? They're just going to be an Egyptian tribe or, you know, slave class or something eventually.
I mean, that's why his brothers didn't recognize him. They didn't call him Joseph when they came.
Yeah.
They called him by his Egyptian name, and he looked Egyptian, so.
And he speaks Egyptian.
Yeah.
They're not going to know that. They're not going to know that he speaks their language, whatever their language was. But time out, verse 36 or 46. Now Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. I think I wrote some stuff down about that. Yeah, he's 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. He was 17 when his brothers betrayed him. Chapter 37, verse 2. So he's been in Egypt for 13 years, and he served Potiphar for 11 then, before he went to the prison. So it's been a while. He ain't looking back. Not at this point, seems to me. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went through all the land of Egypt. During the 7 years of plenty, this happens fast, the land brought forth abundantly in fulfillment of the interpretation. So he gathered all the food of these 7 years, which occurred in the land of Egypt, placed the food in the cities. So we're going to see probably some kind of urbanization. If you want food, you got to go to the cities. That's going to continue because they're going to move to the cities on his orders. So there's a re-centralization happening, or a centralization happening in these urban centers. He placed in every city the food from its surrounding fields. Thus Joseph stored up grain in great abundance like the sand of the sea until he stopped measuring it, for it was beyond measure. And I think what you're seeing here partly is this, I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. So right now, just like with Potiphar, when Potiphar saw that whatever Joseph did, he was being blessed by God. He made the observation. When Potiphar saw that he was being blessed by God because of Joseph, that's what caused him to get promoted. And now you're seeing it again, since in Egypt now he's being blessed. So he's being blessed, so God blesses the nation. There seems to be this reciprocity going on. The reverse of that is going to be true. That's going to turn around real fast, starting in Exodus chapter 3. Now it's going to be the cursing, because they're cursing the children of Israel. Okay. Until verse 49, he stored up all the grain in abundance, like sand, until he stopped measuring it for, what's the point? My money pile is so high, I can't see the money at the top, so I'm just gonna stop counting it. Although I think there's people that never stop. They build forklifts to get up there, not that money at the top. All right. Now, before that passes quick for the years of plenty. Before the year of the famine came, two sons were born to Joseph, whom Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, bore to him. So there's a second mention. Joseph named the firstborn Manasseh, for he said, God has, here it is. I thought it was earlier. Should read the text before I teach it. God has made me forget. So this is in the midst of it, right? What is he thinking? How does he understand himself? Who is he? What is his identity? God has made me forget all my trouble and all my father's household. Interesting thing for the narrator to do, to have Joseph reflect on, in his mind, Canaan is in the past. My future is Egypt. Finally, I'm going somewhere. I'm getting someplace. He named the second son Ephraim, for he said, God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction.
But he hasn't forgotten God.
He has not forgotten, twice over, yeah. But you'll notice he doesn't use Yahweh. He uses God. Okay, now it's going to turn south for the nation, for the kingdom. When the 7 years of plenty, which had been in the land of Egypt, had come to an end, and the 7 years of famine began to come, just as Joseph had said, the little reminder, then there was famine in all the lands, not just in Egypt, but in all the land of Egypt, there was bread. So it turns out in Egypt, they're a land of plenty, but all the surrounding nations have famine. So in all of them, so you can see it coming. There's no question about it. There's a date with destiny happening because they're going to be driven. The family in Canaan is going to be driven to Egypt as a matter of survival. So when all the land of Egypt was famished, people cried out to Pharaoh for bread, and Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, go to Joseph, whatever he says to you, you shall do. And when the famine was spread over all the earth, then Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians. The famine was severe in the land of Egypt.
I have a question. Did they start going to Joseph in the first year? Because it seems like that 80% that they didn't turn over as tax money, they would have stored themselves and had to use.
Did they store? Or how much did they store? Or did they just expect the Nile to always produce? What was the cause of the famine? They ended the implication of the beginning of it with the mention of the Nile and the dream. He has this dream, 7 sleek, fat, plump cows, whatever, come out of the Nile. And then all of a sudden the cows coming out of the Nile ain't so good anymore. So the implication is that the Nile is the cause. Something has happened. Some kind of drought. Yeah. Why did I say
That's
all?
why it would affect all these other countries too, not just the Nile.
Yeah, I don't know how that worked. What's that?
Something in the Nile too, and it's like diseasing everything it touches.
I don't remember why I brought all that up just now about the Nile. Why did I bring that up?
Well, Nile was one of their gods.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, if the Nile is not producing, then the only message you can take from that is that the god of the Nile is angry with you. He's holding back. And so when, like I said, when the plagues happen and the Nile turns to blood, the magicians are going to replicate that, but not nearly on the scale of what Moses does to the Nile. They lose the water. And so that's a God being defeated. In their eyes, that's a God being vanquished. And exactly the same thing is going to happen to the sun god with the darkness. That's a God being vanquished.
So maybe those people didn't store up that 80% to use in the future Because they didn't have a place to store it. Except, or
I-
like you're saying, they just. didn't-
How much would you store?
Yeah.
These are subsist, I mean, these people live subsistence. I'm guessing they're labor, they live hand to mouth.
Mhm.
Like, every culture's got people who think for the future and people who don't.
Yeah.
Or people who can't. They don't ever make enough to, you know,
It's a good time for an entrepreneur, you know. Hey, there's a famine coming, I think I'll store it.
well, I suppose that if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Yeah,
Well, I would think that pretty much the Pharaoh gave Joseph rule everything. They basically, whatever they made, they pretty much had to give to storage enough and just keep enough for them to keep food in their table till the famine.
Well, the text says that he took 20%. Left 80% for him. And that's what's gonna happen in the future. They're gonna return, this is permanent. They're gonna return 20% back to Pharaoh.
But it just shows you how much God blessed,
Yeah.
actually blessed Joseph, if he only took
Yeah.
20% of all the.
And that was enough.
Yeah.
20% of this 7 years is enough for the whole nation for the next 7 years
and for other nations.
and for other nations. Yeah. Where was I? When the 7 years of plenty which had been in the land of Egypt came to an end, and 7 years of famine began to come, Joseph had, just as Joseph had said, there's the reminder. There was famine in all the lands, but in the land of Egypt there was bread. So when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried out to Pharaoh for bread. I already read this, but Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, go to Joseph, and whatever he says to you, you shall do. When the famine was spread over all the face of the earth, guess what happens? Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians, and the famine was very severe in the land of Egypt. And the people of all the earth came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph because the famine was severe in all the earth. So we started with Joseph in prison for 2 years. What's the word for that? Floundering. What's the word for that? Languishing. That's the word. Languishing. And we end with all the earth coming to Joseph to buy food. A remarkable ending.
I think it's kind of needed to help with the narrative, because Moses basically is Joseph changing that, because I'm sure the Pharaoh didn't go see Joseph, go see Joseph, go see.
Yeah.
Past, how he says,
That's what needs.
Egyptian name, you know, but the narrator continues to use, Joseph as the name.
Yeah, it's not like when he gets introduced to somebody, he says, my name is Zaphanath Paneah, but you can call me Joseph.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the reasons his brothers didn't know. Was him.
Pharaoh wouldn't appreciate that. Talked about Daniel. Interesting story with parallels there. So Joseph has 2 Egyptian sons, Manasseh and Ephraim.
Which were probably Hebrew names, actually,
That's a good point. Are they? I don't know.
don't know, but they continue to use it throughout the history of Israel, so.
They will each receive a full share. Jacob will replace Joseph in the inheritance. Jacob will replace Joseph with both those sons, with those 2 sons. So when we talk about the 12 tribes of Israel, it's a little bit depends on how you look at it. Because in allotments and land allotments, the 12 tribes would have included Manasseh and Ephraim,
But not Levi.
but not Levi. So once you see this reference to all the earth right here, you know who's coming, right? It's the next chapter. What did Joseph know about what was coming next? Is he waking up every day looking up to the northwest or northeast going, I wonder if when my brothers are coming?
It was probably in the back of his mind. Because he's seen these other dreams, he thinks that.
But I know, but it won't be until he sees them and they fall before him that the narrator will say, and he remembered the dreams that he had. It appears to me that it's that moment when for all his amazing interpretation of the dreams, it looks to me like it wasn't until that moment that the light bulb comes on and he sees that grand picture.
Maybe that's why God.
His children got his troubles in his father's house.
Yeah,
First.
all my troubles, yeah, Manasseh.
So he forgot about the dreams of
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah.
time period too.
Where are you at?
Verse 51.
His children's first son.
Oh, yeah. Embedded right in the naming.
Yeah.
Wonder how Jacob felt about that when he was blessing Manasseh. Oh, Manasseh's gonna get
Second.
second place. It all works out. So what I see here is an Egyptian. He ain't looking back, not at this point. But God ain't finished yet. Once he gets a hold, he's never letting go. Okay, that's 41. Moving right along. Not that I'm hurrying. "42. And I don't know how many times I've listened to this section here. It's really good to listen to this whole sequence all at once because it doesn't take long. From 39 to about 44, when the brothers finally get there. Just listen to it over and over again. It's just remarkable sequence of events. Now we're back to Canaan. Now Jacob, so let's remind ourselves. Map. But here's Egypt, and here's Canaan. This is where Jacob is and his family. This is where Joseph is. So they're traveling southeast, southwest to Egypt and northeast back to Canaan. Okay. Now Jacob saw that there was grain in Egypt. Jacob said to his sons, "Why are you staring at one another? Starving. We're starving." He said, "Behold, I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy some for us from that place so we may live and not die." So what are we talking about here? It's been 17 years plus 7 is 24 years plus however far into the famine we are. And we're going to get a 2-year marker when the brothers are there. So it doesn't take long in the famine for Jacob's family to be in trouble. Within 2 years of the famine, they're being driven. Jacob's family is being driven to Egypt against, basically, they have no choice.
So the brothers have no idea that Joseph eventually wound up in Egypt, right? All they know is they get sold to the Ishmaelites and.
No, I think they knew he went to Egypt. They sold him to traders who were on their way to Egypt. But what happened to him? I mean, who on earth would ever predict this? Man, I wonder if we'll run into Joseph when we go to Egypt. I don't think that would be on their mind.
But now we're getting back to God's prediction in Genesis 15, where God told Abraham that his family was gonna come out of Egypt.
Yep. Yeah, in the super cycle of fulfillment in Genesis, what starts in Genesis 15 with that decree, your descendants will be slaves in a land that is not their own. I will judge the nation whom they serve, and afterward they will come out with many possessions. We're now coming to some kind of fulfillment of the super cycle where they're going to end up slaves in Egypt, but they're not going to. You just wouldn't predict from that when the book ends, they will be tremendously blessed in Egypt. They won't be living the lives of slaves. And there's no way in 15 that you could ever get to this. Nothing in chapter 15 is going to make you say, "Oh, I know what's going to happen." Yeah, down the line, there's going to be this son who's going to end up getting sold to Egypt and then nobody would. No straight lines in the story. Why are you staring at one another? And he said, behold, I have heard there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy some food for us that we may live and not die. Look at that number. Then 10 brothers of Joseph went down to buy grain from Egypt. I find this fascinating. Because Jacob said, Jacob did not send Joseph's brother Benjamin with his brothers, for he said, I am afraid that harm may befall him. Well, let's take a look at something. I've been listening to this in King James. Oh, it's already there. Joseph's 10 brothers went down to buy corn in Egypt, but Benjamin, Joseph's brother Jacob, did not send with his brother, for he said, lest peradventure mischief befall him. In that translation, I don't know the story, but in Jacob's mind, I don't know that he was ever really convinced that the brothers were innocent in the disappearance of Joseph. Because he's going to say in a little bit, when Simeon gets left behind, he's going to say, you have bereaved me of my 2 sons. That's what he's going to say. So apparently,
Well, maybe the affections for Benjamin. I mean, Benjamin replaced Joseph as his favorite son at that. So, so basically saying, my favorite wife and my 2 sons, I'm not gonna, let any more harm come to them since,
yeah, I'm pretty convinced that he didn't trust these guys. Because he would have known about their hostility to him. There's no way that you would keep that a secret. Even the way that they brought him the coat with the blood on it. Here's this coat. Tell us whether it's your son's coat. Not father, something terrible's happened to Joseph,
And Benjamin's not a little boy. A lot of times artists picture him as an underage child.
They call him child
Yeah.
in
but
this.
He's not a little kid.
Yeah, I don't know how he would have been.
Well, Joseph's been there 24 years, you said? So he's gonna be at least 24.
I don't
He was
know.
Born before Joseph was.
Yeah, that's true. So he holds back Benjamin. He's willing to give up the other 10. But he's going to hold back Benjamin. What else have I got to say about this? I hear water. Now Joseph, the reminder, Joseph was ruler over the land, which implies that they're going to have to go to him. Because remember what the narrator said. Remember what Pharaoh said. Everyone go to Joseph. It's not like Joseph set up Joseph kept the power. So if you wanted to buy, they were headed for a confrontation or some kind of date with destiny with Joseph, because that was the rule. Go to Joseph, whatever he says, do. So he would have been in charge of allocating how much grain would be given to foreigners.
So even though there's multiple storehouses in the cities of Egypt, he's the guy you gotta go.
Yeah. Or, they're going to take word to him. Maybe you don't see him, but you make your request. They take the request to Joseph and he.
I'm sure that he probably had advisors in all these little towns, all these little cities. And then they would come to him and say, how much do we need to give out to our people?
Right.
Where the foreigners probably came right to where Joseph was at. And they had to actually see David Joseph, how much it was, Plus, I'm sure that Joseph had already decreed how much they were going to give these people,
That was all worked out.
Yeah. So.
He was a ruler over all the land. He was the one who sold to all the people of the land. That looks pretty direct to Mike's point. Joseph's brothers came. Happens fast, doesn't it? bowed down to him with their faces to the ground. So if you were a foreigner and you wanted grain, you had to go prostrate yourself before the governor of Egypt. So there's no way they were getting out of this without a direct confrontation or encounter with Joseph.
Well, and Joseph's first dream involved grain. It's interesting.
Yeah, I did. That's right. When Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he disguised himself to them and spoke to them harshly. Plan comes into action quick. I don't know what he was thinking, but he's immediately, why is he being harsh? Is he glad to see them? Where's Benjamin? No Benjamin. He looks at the 10 brothers. What on earth? Where's my brother? Did you kill him too? He said to them, where have you come from? And they said, from the land of Canaan to buy food. $10:09.
But he's also kind of giving them the same treatment they gave him. They were pretty harsh with them, so he's gonna be harsh back.
Yeah, look at the way it ends. This little part of the story ends in verse 17. He's going to put him in prison. Joseph had recognized his brothers, although they did not recognize him, and Joseph remembered the dreams which he had about them and said to them, you are spies. Now, man, he just thinks quick. You are spies. You have come to look at the undefended parts of the land. My own opinion is everything stops until I find out what happened with Benjamin. I don't believe a word you people are saying. So right now, you already know you're going to show me Benjamin, or you're not getting anything from me, and you may not get out of here. Then they said to him, no, my Lord. They call him Lord for the first time. Chapter 42, verse 10. But your servants, no, my Lord, but your servants have come to buy food. So there's the first bow. They've already bowed down, and that now they acknowledge it. We are all sons of one man, and now they're going to be a little too honest. We are honest men. Yep, sure. Your servants are not spies. Yet he said to them, no, but you have come to look at the undefended parts of the land. But they said, your servants are 12 brothers in all. The sons of, now they're going to give it away. The sons of one man in the land of Canaan, and behold, the youngest is with our father today, and one is no longer alive. Well, they don't know that. They sold him into slavery in Egypt. So that's a lie. Unless you just assume he got killed in Egypt. Joseph said to them, he's doubling down, it is as I said, you are spies. By this you will be tested. By the life of Pharaoh, you shall not go from this place unless your youngest brother comes here. I don't believe a word you're saying. Send one of you that he may get your brother while you remain confined, that your words may be tested, whether there is truth in you. That's real. They don't know it, but that's real. I want to know what you people are now and what the truth is. But if not, by the life of Pharaoh, surely you are spies. And of course, you know what we do with spies. So he put them all together in prison for 3 days. And man, what are you thinking? You come to Egypt to buy food. And the next thing you know, Joseph came out to find his brothers when they were doing their herding. He finds himself in a pit. They come to Egypt, to buy food. And the next thing you know, the governor of Egypt has them in prison. And so now there's going to be discussion that goes on between them. What was Joseph able to hear of his brothers? Because, you can listen in, you can have people, I don't know, I guess they couldn't have other people giving reports because they're speaking whatever language they're speaking from Canaan. But Joseph speaks the language, but that's this first part of the story.
Well, that made it easy for Joseph to disguise himself. He could speak a different language.
Yeah. And everything would be different. He was only 17.
And he shaved.
They shaved too, that's right. He was only 17 before, now he's 30. Whatever, what is that? Yeah, now you're pushing for, so that would be no problem. Plus whatever they wear, And,
Another thing too is, you said send one of your brothers back, knowing that it would probably take more than 3 days for him to get back to Canaan, get back
Yeah.
to Egypt. It would take more than 3 days.
yeah, they ain't getting a brother back until they bring Benjamin. That's it. I want to see Benjamin. Everything stops. You're going to show me Benjamin. And we'll go ahead and stop there. But that's, to me, it's just,
If they end up leaving Simeon there, and they sent all the food back, how long does Simeon, cause they didn't come back and get more grain until they got done. with
they got, yeah.
what they sent back, so Simeon was in prison for quite a while.
2 years.
Yeah.
Because he's going to say, when they finally have their reconciliation, he says, you need to move here because there's still 5 years to go in the famine. So it's been 2 years. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and stop. Okay. Thanks for joining.